Clover used to be really popular back in the 1950s for lawn cover, and it comes for good reason because it doesn't need much attention or water, and it looks really, really pretty once it's all grown out. So today's video, I'm gonna go through a crash course in clover lawns and what you need to think about if you want to get into this or not. So let's jump in. So there are two different types of clover that are commonly used for lawns. The first one being white clover or Dutch clover, the second one being micro clover. Now there is a difference between the two. Micro clover tends to be more compact and it has a root system that may be better designed to taking on traffic. The reason for this is because micro clover was actually designed to be used on field turf for athletes in combination with grass. Now white clover or Dutch clover, which is probably the more common and the less expensive of the two, is not genetically engineered in any way or hybridized in any way to make it ideal for lawns. It's just we've chosen to use it for lawns due to its price point. Now what I will say is that white clover can morphologically be changed if you cut often. So if you cut a white clover lawn, for example, once a month, you will have a more compact clover lawn. The only drawback to this, however, is that clover seed or plants in general does not propagate through rhizomes like grass, meaning when we do cut these plants, we begin to slowly decrease the lifespan of that lawn. We need these plants to flower and then disperse the seed to make the next lawn for next year and the years to come. So do keep that in mind. You may want to consider allowing that lawn to get a little bit long and flower later in the year so it can disperse some of the seed. Now, before we get into how exactly we're going to reseed an existing lawn or how you would actually seed a lawn that's completely bare, let's talk about the benefits and the cons of clover. So it's not uncommon for us to hear about the problems with excess fertilizer, and clover is actually a solution that reduces fertilizer inputs entirely. This is because clover does nitrogen fix, and it is in the legume family, meaning it pulls atmospheric nitrogen out of the air and solubilizes it into the root system. Now, this nitrogen isn't necessarily bioavailable to surrounding plants if you have garden beds near a clover lawn within that first year, but over time that nitrogen will become more bioavailable to surrounding soil as well as to the clover itself. And actually, fertilizing a fully clover lawn may be highly detrimental to the clover itself and cause burning. When we apply nitrogen in particular, we tend to reduce the effects of that rhizome nodulation and ultimately nitrogen fixation. So we want to cut back on that nitrogen input. Now, this doesn't mean, despite popular belief, that the clover lawns need zero fertilizer. They do need some. You just want to get something specially designed for a legume type plant. Now, clover, when intercropped with grass, can actually help your lawn get through a drought. So, hear what I said there. Clover is not drought resistant. It just simply is better at getting surrounding plants through a drought. The reason for this is the actual taproot system. Legumes in general are very popular to be planted in a drought year. The reason for this is because they go to the lower depths to capture water, and they will bring that water up through the soil surface and deposit it near the top. This depositing of water, if you will allow not only the clover to thrive and survive, but also surrounding plants if you're using a mixed lawn type setup. And we'll get into why you want to use a mixed lawn depending on your situation. The third reason for the clover lawn, and probably one of the less spoken about ones, is its competition against weeds. This includes dandelions, sow thistle, quackgrass, you name it. Clover is an incredible competitor when it comes to weed species, and that is because it is so good at germinating in almost any circumstance. So long as you're allowing the clover to do its thing and deposit its seeds, it will actually eventually take over the entire lawn, and you actually may need to reseed grass species if you're looking for a turf that is an intermix. Now, why would you be looking for that intermixed lawn type? The reason for this actually comes down to the durability of the lawn and what survives. So, clover is a great crop. However, it is kind of fragile in some cases when it's on its own or until it fully establishes. This is why you would use something such as this bee turf, which includes grass, fescues, yarrow, oat, and actual clover. This intercropping method will allow different species to establish in your lawn and be able to achieve growth despite the fact that there may be traffic or flooding or whatever the case is on your lawn. If you're not sowing in an already established lawn, like what I'm going to do in my front yard, I would actually heavily encourage you guys to do a mix on a bare dirt ground. It's really important for that establishment, and over time, the species that thrive and survive in specific areas of that lawn will eventually take that over. Now, the cons to this could be if you have pets or children. If the clover does flower and therefore it does attract beautiful bees, however, that bee attraction may be harmful to pets or children who don't understand how bees work and may want to touch or grab or just simply land on them by accident, which can obviously end up in stings. The other reason why clover may not be for you is if you have a soil that is inherently in a depression and is flooded very often. So if you're noticing a lot of standing still water in the spring or for several weeks in the spring, clover is not a great spot for that. And the third reason you may want to not go with a clover lawn actually comes down to the fact that it is considered an invasive species. Yes, so it is really good at competing with weeds, which means it's really good at competing with everything. So if you're going to sow this on a lawn that has an in-ground bed nearby, and you know that those seeds could very easily be moved or scuffed or blown into a surrounding bed, you may want to rethink planting clover, because it will move into your actual garden beds, and then you will need to weed out the clover over time. So do keep that in mind before you decide to make this choice. Now, here in Canada, we're in a drought. Yes, a drought. Shocking, right? Considering all the forest fires. And we have been for, this is going to be our 3rd year. So when it comes to sowing clover for me, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to start my clover in a peat medium inside of just a flower pot or a container of some sort. I'm going to soak and cover that pot up. What I'm going to wait for is germination. Once I see that germination taking place, I know it is now time to actually spread that seed onto the lawn itself. Now, ideal world, your lawn would be tilled or worked in some way to loosen up the existing soil, because clover is not the best at establishing in heavy clay or something that's compacted and dense. So ideal world, you would be tilling it. But in my case, in the front yard anyways, I'm overseeding, what we call overseeding an existing lawn. And so because of that, I'm actually just gonna broadcast that sprouted clover mix with peat on top of that existing lawn. And then after that, you're going to wanna water at least twice a day, every day, for that first 2 weeks. Just a nice light spritzing until things really truly get going in the clover world of your lawn. But once that's done, you should be a-okay. And how often you allow it to flower is going to determine how dense that actual lawn becomes over time and how long it will survive into the future. Remember, if you just let it grow, you cut it or mow it before it sets seed, you will not have a lawn in 3 years, because it's just going to simply die off. So I hope this helped you guys out in determining whether or not you want to go with a clover lawn, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.